Suddenly, silence falls over the valley. The chirping of birds thins out. You see a small herd of goats keeping close to the rocks, and the wind falls still, like the land is holding its breath. Then you notice the stones, stacked in strange places, a wall where no sane mason would ever build. Glancing up at the ridge, something stands, 12 feet tall, maybe more, 1,300 pounds, and one hand gripping a tree trunk as a club. And in the center of its face, one enormous eye. Alright, let's begin with the basics. One eye, large body, incredible strength, and terrible aim at a distance. That's the version you might find copied into a basic monster manual, though the truth is, as usual, more involved. Cyclops are giant kin. I think that much is clear enough. They share the size, strength, and hardiness of giant kind, though they rarely possess the culture and craft seen among greater giants. When most people imagine giants, they picture things like storm giants in their clouded halls, frost giants descending from the ice, or fire giants in deep volcanic fortresses. But Cyclops tend to be encountered far from all that. A Cyclops might live alone in a cave above a mountain pass. It might herd sheep along a coastal cliff. They'll spend years in a valley with no company beyond its animals, its tools, and whatever strange beliefs it's gathered over time, and very minimal curiosity about the outside world. They don't really build kingdoms. A Cyclops claims its land by standing in a road and lifting a boulder over its head, which in some ways can be just as effective. Physically, the Cyclops is difficult to mistake for anything else. A single large eye sits in the center of its face beneath a heavy brow. Their bodies are powerful and usually thick with muscle. They're often dressed in hides, rough cloth, or scraps of armor taken from unfortunate adventurers. A Cyclops weapon is usually something blunt and direct, things like a massive club or even a length of timber, and whichever stones are nearby. And they're strong, very strong. You don't have to wonder whether a Cyclops can break down a door. The question is more like whether it even notices there's a door there in the first place. And that brings us to the eye. The eye is the primary reason why the creature is remembered, but the eye is also how the Cyclops experiences the world. A creature with one eye loses some sense of depth. Distance becomes a lot less certain. So a stone might be more likely to miss, and a reaching hand might misjudge exactly where its prey is. And opponents who understand this can sometimes survive longer than expected. Sometimes. Cyclops are often found in wild, isolated areas, places like hills, mountains, grasslands, and of course, caves. Beyond that, they've even been seen in the Feydark, which is the Feywild's version of the Underdark. And oftentimes, they'll be seen serving under some Fomorian master, typically as blacksmiths. But a Cyclops can survive in regions that would exhaust most people, besides maybe our ranger friends. They can sleep beneath a ledge, drink from streams, eat what they can herd or hunt, and build primitive shelter out of whatever random materials are laying around. Many of them keep animals as well: sheep, goats, cattle, or even stranger beasts depending on the region. And a Cyclops with a herd generally has a routine. It wakes up, it watches for predators, it might even speak to the animals or even name them. But that doesn't make them gentle. Plenty of cruel creatures keep pets. But a Cyclops is often tied to its land through simple habits. In its own way, it values things like the cave where it sleeps, the stones it arranged, or the stream where its herd drinks. And to a passing caravan, that valley may look like a convenient shortcut, but to the Cyclops, it might be home. Now we come to the mind of the Cyclops, an often misunderstood thing. They hear that Cyclops are simple, gullible, and easily tricked by magic, And that's not necessarily wrong, but it's a bit deeper than that. A Cyclops may lack formal learning and have no understanding of things like manners, arcane theory, history, or politics, but it understands hunger. It understands pain, possession, insult. It understands that small creatures can sometimes lie, and that includes you. And perhaps most importantly, it understands strength. Many Cyclops see the world through a narrow set of rules. Basically, what's mine is mine, what enters my land will answer to me, what feeds me is good, and what steals from me is bad. Essentially a version of might makes right. And there is a form of logic there. Is it limited? Of course, but still logic nonetheless. Does this make them evil? Well, I don't think it's that black and white. Cyclops are dangerous. A hungry or angry Cyclops can destroy a caravan simply because they wandered down a valley that they considered to be theirs. But evil? I'll leave that up to you. Cyclops are famously superstitious. This is one of the more useful things to know about them should you come into contact. A Cyclops may interpret the world through omens. For example, they might believe a local storm is some form of a warning. It's hard to say for sure, but this could tie into more recent claims that Cyclops are simple servants of destiny and even have some limited form of foresight. But the scholars have yet to flesh out this theory beyond that. However, magic to a Cyclops can be terrifying, and if used correctly, can even pacify them for a time. You might cast minor illusion and send one into a panic, and a clever adventurer can sometimes use this to avoid a fight. Other times, the Cyclops might decide that the illusion should be destroyed before it casts some kind of curse on them. That's kind of the problem with superstition. It can be unreliable. It doesn't always make a creature flee. Fear can make a creature obedient, but it can also make a creature turn violent. And when the frightened creature can lift a wagon, that can be a problem. So yeah, deception can work, but every trick should be simple, convincing, and done from a distance, because a Cyclops given time to think may grow suspicious, and a Cyclops made to feel foolish will likely grow angry. Now, some of you may be wondering where Cyclops fit among other giants. Well, as mentioned before, Cyclops are giant kin. They share the blood, shape, and mannerisms with the broader family of giants, though they're usually far removed from the traditions of typical giant society. For example, storm giants are distant and value intellect. Cloud giants are easygoing and enjoy high-risk, high-reward behavior. Fire giants value craft, discipline, and bravery. Frost giants celebrate strength and cunning. Stone giants live dreamlike lives in caverns and cliffs. And hill giants eat, sleep, and destroy with impressive dedication. And there are maybe half a dozen different theories as to where they originated. Many in Tyrrell claim they descended from Annam Allfather, who's the chief of the giant pantheon, but we may never know the truth for sure. But Cyclops sit apart from the rest in many ways. They're rougher around the edges, more solitary and less concerned with culture, or even their own origins. A Cyclops is unlikely to care where it stands in the order of giant kind. Some may even serve stronger giants. In fact, Fomorians were known to highly value their skill in forging magical items in particular. But many Cyclops remain alone for most of their lives, and that loneliness can shape them for better or worse. To the point where some Cyclops will attack without warning. Others can be talked down depending on the circumstance. For example, a Cyclops that keeps animals might understand trade. There are even stories of Cyclops forming crude arrangements with nearby villages. They have little use for standard currency, so in exchange for some protection, the people might leave an offering for the creature in the form of a goat or other beast, and these arrangements can last for years. Cyclops have also been used by more cunning powers as well. Bandits might lead one to a road to disrupt a trade route so they can pillage a caravan, or a wizard might charm or confuse one into guarding a tower. And Cyclops are powerful guards, but can be poor servants. They often misunderstand instructions or even grow bored. So hiring a Cyclops is kinda like using a landslide as a gatekeeper. Will it block the gate? Of course. But it's difficult to control once in motion. So let's talk a little bit about more practical matters, since there's a decent chance you'll come across one of these creatures in the wild. Should you encounter a Cyclops, keep in mind that distance is your friend, because Cyclops aren't exactly fast, but with them being so strong, they can throw stones pretty far. However, due to their singular eye, they're a good bit less accurate than other giants. So keep your distance. It'll give you time to speak, observe, or even retreat if necessary. Second, don't mock the eye. Don't even bring it up. Yes, I know, it's the most obvious feature, but the Cyclops knows that as well. Some of them can be made angry just by bringing it up, and oftentimes they're surprisingly sensitive on the topic. Third, speak plainly. Cyclops are simple creatures with slightly below average intelligence, so a Cyclops will often misunderstand elaborate bargains. And if you twist your words too finely, it might get confused. And a confused Cyclops is usually an angry Cyclops. So say what you offer, say what you want, and say what you'll do next. Keep it brief and direct. Fourth, pay attention to what it values. Things like if it keeps animals, don't threaten the herd, or if it guards a place, don't step closer without permission. Simply reading the room can oftentimes avoid conflict. They're not entirely unreasonable. And fifth, never assume that tricking a Cyclops means you defeated it. A trick will buy you time and a moment to think, but don't get overconfident. There are adventurers who fail to understand this. They'll fool the Cyclops once and think they can keep it up indefinitely. But the thing is, Cyclops can usually catch on to the ruse if given enough time to think about it. So cleverness is useful, but overconfidence will always ruin it in the long run. So what is a Cyclops? A giant? Yes, the smallest of their kind in fact. A brute? Very often. A danger to the nearby roads, herds, and villages? Also not uncommon. But the Cyclops is ultimately a simple creature of places. It belongs to lonely countrysides, and to the hills where the grass grows high, to caves above the valley, and to the ruins off a beaten path. And should your travels carry you through such a place, remember the signs. A seemingly random herd, a wall of stones that no human hands could have lifted, a cave decorated with bones and hide, with a goat skull hanging from the wall. If you see these kinds of signals, maybe start thinking about what you can offer the beast, or what kind of bargain you might strike, or even what spell you can cast to give you enough time to retreat. Thanks for listening. Alright everyone, that ends this one on the Cyclops. Leave a comment if you want and hit that like button. Anyways, I'll see you for the next one, so be safe, take care, and happy trails.